beloved new friend, Mary. Mary, are you
Mary.
on the call with me, honey?
Yes, I'm there. Can you hear me?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Folks, you have no idea what a blessing you're getting ready to receive. Mary, I want you to tell the people on the call this evening where you were in your life before you discovered this product and where you find yourself these days and how long you've been on the product and just your whole story, if you don't mind.
All right. Well, thank you. And, boy, what a treat to hear that, doctor. Thank you for sharing all that information. My story starts 8 years ago. I was selling cars for CarMax, loved my job, just proves anybody can work there because I didn't know anything about cars. But I made really good money. And the one thing CarMax did was every year they would encourage us to go get our physicals. So I went for my physical. And my doctor said, you need to go to a specialist. And I said, really? I feel just fine. They said, I don't like the looks of your blood. So I went to a specialist. I've always said he missed the class on 101 bedside manners. He walked in and he said, well, it's metastasized in your pelvis. And I go, are you talking about cancer? He said, yes. And I said, well, I feel perfectly fine. What if I choose to do nothing? He says, lady, you got less than a year to live. Call your children, and walked out of the room. I felt like somebody sucker punched me and left. Well, I didn't believe it, so I went to 5 more doctors, and they all said the same thing. I had final stage multimyeloma cancer. It's a blood cancer that eats big holes in your bones. I had 36 holes in my bones. I lost all of my top teeth because it ate my jawbone. I had 15 holes in my skull. Anyway, my grandchildren started calling me, and they said, Grandma, Mom says you're going to die if you don't do something. Well, what they had said was it could prolong my life if I did something. And I have seen what prolonged life looked like, and I wasn't very excited about it. But I went ahead and found a doctor and I had extreme chemo twice a week with steroids for 4 months, only to be told that I couldn't have any more chemo and that I had bought myself 3 months. Well, I was really discouraged because now I felt bad and looked bad. But they said, we got this latest, greatest drug we want to put you on. So they had me go to Menorah Hospital, and they give me a dose and sent me home with 2 days' worth. And I'm driving on 435, and I went blind in the middle lane. And I thought, it scared me half to death. I had to sit for 2 hours beside the road before I could drive home. The second day, I stepped out of bed and fell on the floor because neuropathy had hit my feet and legs to the point that I couldn't stand or support myself. The third day, I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning with chest pain. So I thought, I better get a flashlight out and read all the side effects of this drug because I'm having a terrible time. The second one on the list was a heart attack, and I thought, oh, my God, they're going to kill me. So I woke my husband up. He wanted to take me to the hospital, and I said, I have practically lived at that hospital for the last 5 months. I am not going to die there. Well, the next morning I was still alive, so I called the pharmacy, and I said, would you please check my dose? Something's got to be wrong. I hear the guy walk away from the phone, and then I hear him say, oh, my God, it's a wonder the doctor hasn't killed this woman. And I thought, are they talking about me? And this other guy chimes in and says, I've never known anybody right out of the gate on that big of a dose that's lived to talk about it. And I thought, oh. So I hear him coming back to the phone, and when he got back to the phone, he swore. He said the O-S-H-I-T word. And I thought, he thought that phone was muted. He knows I just heard everything they said. So I said, out of curiosity, how much am I supposed to be on? He said, oh, whatever the doctor told you. I said, well, let's play that game a little different. If there was 100 people in the room, how many would be on what? He says, well, you're on 25 milligram. There's 20, 15, 10, and 5. The majority would be on 5, a handful on 10. I thought, well, I'm not taking any more of that. So I hung up, called my oncologist, left a message, and I said, I'm not going to take any more of this. If you want to see me, call me. Well, he didn't. 2 weeks later, I go in for my regular appointment. First thing out of his mouth was, I hear you called the pharmacy. Now, the only way he knew that is they called him. And I said, yeah, I was having a horrible time. He says, well, tell you what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to give you a month off, and then I'll probably put you on 5 milligrams. Well, knowing what I know now, I had enough in my system. I probably had a lawsuit, but I had such chemo fog, I didn't hardly know my own name. And so I left there really, really discouraged, because now I'm down to the last 6 months of my life. I'm 59 years old, and I'm just not ready to leave. I just felt like I had more to offer. And I began to pray. And I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but I'm a believer, and I've always said I don't believe that you'll find an atheist in a foxhole or in a cancer ward, because it drives you to your knees. And I said, God, if I'm going to make it or survive this hit, I need to find something natural that will heal my body, or I'm done. Well, on day 5 of me praying, I had a miracle happen. And the reason I say that was 3 years earlier, I was on my way home from CarMax. I found myself on the wrong road, and I thought, why on earth am I on this road? And once in my 20s that happened, and I got home and turned the TV on, and where I should have been, there'd been a fatality car wreck. So as soon as I realized I was on the wrong road, I started praying. I said, Lord, why am I on this road? I have never had anything as powerful happen to me. What happened next had never happened to me before or since. I felt my whole being was told to go to the Bannister Home Depot. Well, I hate that store because, first of all, that particular store is in the hood, and I helped open that store because I worked for Depot for 10 years. I saw guns in that store 3 times. I saw attempted rape in broad daylight. I saw people come in to buy a bucket of paint, leave, and their car was stolen. And so I'm arguing, saying, this isn't a good idea, God. I don't think you understand. My husband's not going to be very happy about this. As I'm walking in the store, walking up down the aisles praying, why am I here? Is there somebody I'm supposed to pray for? I get back to the millwork desk, this guy in an orange apron that I had never seen before. I knew I was supposed to talk to him. I don't know how to explain it. I just knew it. Struck up a conversation with him, found out that he and his wife were missionaries, just came back from England. Well, for an hour and a half on a Friday night, and if you guys have ever been to Home Depot on a Friday night, you can't find anybody to help you with anything. This man stood there and shared one Jesus story after another with me. I got out in the car and I thought, what on earth just happened? So fast forward 3 years, on day 5 of me praying, Lord, I need a natural product that's going to heal these holes in my bones. My phone rings, and this guy goes, this is Mary? And I said, yes. And he goes, well, this is Mark. And I go, you're the dude from Home Depot. He said, yeah. I said, well, he goes, are you all right? And I said, no, I'm not. I'm battling final stage cancer. I'm down to the last 6 months of my life. He says, my mother-in-law is a cancer survivor, and a year ago she found an all-natural product that totally changed her life. I said, well, have her call me. So she called me and asked me if she could take me to lunch. And I said, as long as you don't mind someone with no teeth, no hair, and no money, I'll go with you. And she said, it'll be my treat. I remember this conversation as if it was yesterday. She said, my husband and I have been missionaries since 1968. We own a home in Thailand where we help girls escape from being sold into prostitution. But she said, I'm an educator, and all of my adult life I've spent researching children with ADHD, autism, and Asperger's. I'm in the process of writing a book. And she said, a year ago, Dr. Gilgerson from Lee Summit called me and said, Ms. Shepard, I understand you're writing a book on children with learning disabilities and nutrition. I have a natural product I think you're going to want to put in your book. Can you come watch an ABC primetime investigative report? She said, I'm on my way. So she watched the ABC primetime investigative report, and halfway through it, she's thinking, I need this product. She had early signs of dementia. She would get lost, have to call her daughter to find out how to get home. And she had 2 bulging discs in her back, and she was in constant pain. So she bought a bottle. 3 weeks later, she said she woke up and she thought, wow, I've got energy and I've got focus and my back has quit hurting. I wonder if it's that yellow pill I'm taking. But she said, Mary, my aha moment came through my cousin, who also was a missionary, but he had gotten into prison ministry. He called and he said, Jackie, I called for prayers. I've been diagnosed with Parkinson's and I'm not doing very well at all. She said, ask your doctor if you can take this little yellow pill I'm taking. It's changed my life. The doctor goes, oh, no. We don't want you on anything natural. We want to be in charge. They literally watched that man go from a cane to a walker to a wheelchair in 6 months. He could no longer hold his head up. He drooled all over himself, and he could no longer articulate his speech. And his wife said to him one day, boy, your doctor's not doing you any favors. Have you looked in the mirror lately? And he nodded. She said, I think you should try what your cousin Jackie told you about. And he nodded. So he started taking it. 3 months later, Jackie and her husband was headed home from Nepal, where they'd been on a mission trip, and they had a 5-hour layover in Atlanta, Georgia, where her cousin lived. So she called and said, can we come by and say hey? And the wife said, I'll fix you a bite to eat. We'd love to see you. She said, Mary, this was my aha moment when I realized that this was no ordinary product and that this was going to transform and change people's lives. She knocked on the door flew open, and there stood her cousin. No cane, no walker, no wheelchair, and he starts marching. And she said, what happened to you? He goes, it's you and that yellow pill. She goes, you have got to be kidding me. He goes, no. She goes, are you going to come in and eat with us? He goes, no, I'm back doing prison ministry full time. Went out, got in his car, and drove off. And she said, I just stood there with my mouth open. But she said, Mary, this next story is for you. When we got home from Nepal, the phone was ringing, and it was my old pastor, Pastor Ford from Atlanta. He said, Jackie, I called for prayers. I've been diagnosed with final stage throat cancer. And she said, they're giving me no hope at all. She said, I'm sending you these pills. Take them. He said, okay. So 3 months passed. The oncologist called him and said, listen, I've decided my course of action for you is going to be extreme radiation. It will destroy your voice box. It will destroy your voice cords. But I think we can save your life. Well, if you're a minister, you need to be able to speak. So she said, I want you to come in. We're going to do an ultrasound so I'll know where to hit you. She came in, did the ultrasound. She comes back in the room and she goes, what have you been doing? He goes, is it worse? She goes, no. Here's your picture 2 months ago. See how thick the cancer is? Here's your picture today. I cannot find any cancer in your throat at all. What are you doing? He goes, oh, this friend of mine from Missouri sent me these yellow pills. And she goes, well, what are they? He goes, I don't know. She goes, you're taking pills? You don't even know what they are? He says, wait a minute. You offered me no hope at all. She said, well, that's true. I want to know everything about this. I want to research it. I want you back in here in 30 days. We're going to run every lab test, blood test known to man. I want to know what's going on in your body. Came back in 30 days, and they could not find any cancer. She was so absolutely astounded that she convinced Emory College to do a peer-reviewed study on this product and throat cancer, which is still in the process. And I didn't realize how significant a peer-reviewed study was, but only 2% of all peer-reviewed studies ever get on PubMed, and this company already has 27 published ones. So I left that meeting with hope. I thought, maybe I don't have to die. And I went to church that night, and it was the Wednesday night before Easter, and we decided to clean the nursery because you get seasonal Christians at Easter. And I'm sitting on the floor of the nursery telling everybody in there this same story. And my pastor goes, Mary, I have sugar diabetes and high blood pressure. I want to know about this product. His brother says, I got final stage melanoma cancer. I want to know about this. Somebody else had hepatitis. Somebody else had migraines. Somebody else had rheumatoid arthritis. And I'm thinking, good Lord, the whole place is falling apart. I said, you guys, I barely know this woman. I have only had lunch with her once. They said, call her, see if she'll meet with us. I said, when? They said, tomorrow. I said, okay. Well, she ended up coming to my house. She showed the ABC Prime Time. She talked about the American Heart Association and how I had paid for 2 studies. The first one reduced heart disease by 50%. The second study proved it reduced scarring 100%, and within that study, it proved it gets rid of fibrosis in the artery, which causes strokes. And she said, well, Mary doesn't know it, but there's a tremendous business opportunity here. Now, remember, I have no hair, no teeth, and I have no money, because the week before, my husband came home and informed me that the guy he'd been working for had left town without paying him because his dad had a heart attack. The IRS decided we owed them money, and they froze our bank accounts. We had already went through $20,000 of savings. Every credit card we had was maxed out, and we were just about to lose our home. And so I'm thinking, there's no way we can do a business. And she goes, well, if you pre-sell them like Girl Scout cookies, you only need 13 bottles to come in at this level. And she goes, how many of you are going to buy bottles tonight? There was exactly 13 people. I said, okay, make the checks payable to my husband. He can become a distributor. I have to get well. She gave me a bottle that night. On day 3, my chemo fog lifted. On day 5, the neuropathy in my legs went away. On day 8, the neuropathy in my feet went away. I felt amazing. And I told my oncologist, and he just rolled his eyes, and he said, you're wasting your money, but if that's what you want to do. I said, well, you didn't offer me any hope. And so I kept taking it. At 5 months, I went in to see my oncologist, and the old one had retired, and the new one is looking at me, looking at my blood work, looking at me, looking at my blood work, and he says, why aren't we doing a stem cell transplant on you? I said, I was told that I'm not a candidate, and he kept reading. He says, you're right, you're not a candidate. You've got 36 major holes. It would take 2.5 years for those holes to heal to the point that I could recommend you to KU for a stem cell transplant, and you only have a few months left. But I have never seen blood work look like this on anyone. He says, I'm going to order...
Hey, Mary.
What?
Where were the holes at?
Well, I had 15 in my skull. My jawbone was completely gone. I had 3 huge ones across my low back. I had them in my femur. And the one across my low back was huge. They said, you don't have to worry about dying from cancer. You'll stand up one of these days and your back will snap and you'll just be gone. I thought that's encouraging.
So you're talking about holes in your skeleton?
Yes, huge holes.
Wow.
And I was supposed to have had severe pain, but thank you, God, I never had severe pain. But some of the holes were all the way through the bone. So
wow.
Anyway, he said, I'm going to run a skeletal x-ray. Don't get your hopes up. Every single hole in my body had healed. And that was in 5 months. So I was able to have a stem cell transplant, which is a 120-day fight for your life. And they take you right to death's door. When I woke up from that, some amazing things had happened. All the people from my church that had bought bottles had all become distributors because they all had their own amazing story. My pastor went from 6 prescription drugs to a half a pill. His sugar diabetes normalized, his high blood pressure normalized, his cholesterol had dropped. His brother was supposed to have 6 months left. He's been in remission now for 7.5 years. The person that had rheumatoid arthritis was so bad he was waiting for his disability to come because he could no longer work. He was in constant pain. After a month and a half on this product, he went back to construction work and has worked construction ever since. And every time that man sees me, no matter where it's at, he runs to me and hugs me with tears in his eyes and tells me, you saved my life. And the person that had hepatitis, they couldn't find it anymore, so they decided they'd made a mistake. The person that had migraines is one of my best friends. She hasn't had a migraine in 7.5 years. So I always tell people what the FDA says is 100% of the time, with 100% of all mammals, it reduces oxidative stress by 40% in 30 days. The American Heart Association goes one step further and says after 120 days, it reduces it by 70%. Oxidative stress is linked to over 350 diseases. So if you lower your oxidative stress, your body will repair itself. I had the privilege of meeting the scientist that developed this, and he said this is the best way to describe it. When you take this product, within a half hour, it rings the doorbell to every cell in your body. and it either upregulates something you're not making enough of or downregulates something you're making too much of. So it fine-tunes your genome every single day so that as your body is repairing itself, and I used to have big arthritic bumps all over my hands. My hands hurt. I don't even know when they left because I was too busy fighting for my life. And I'm just going to throw this in real quick. My husband, I always say that when we got married, people used to say to me, how did you guys get together? Because I always said when God said, okay, men, get in this line if you want a personality, my husband was researching something and missed it. We'll be married 50 years this summer, but he never enjoyed people, and he would, if we went to church, he was, when we went there all the time, but he would be the first person out of church, and if we invited people over, he'd always pull me aside and say, who are these people and how long do they have to be here? And after he'd been on this product for 2 months, he came home one day freaked out of his mind because he talked to a stranger. I said, honey, I talk to strangers all the time. This is not a big deal. He says, I've never talked to a stranger unless it was to tell them it was going to rain, roll their window up. He said, do you think that girl thought I was hitting on her? And I said, well, honey, what'd you do? And he said, well, I was going through the checkout line. She said, paper or plastic? I said, plastic. And then I looked up and noticed that she had a beautiful necklace. And I said, wow, that's a beautiful necklace. Did you make it? We have 4 daughters, and they make jewelry. He said, honey, do you think she thought I was hitting on her? I said, well, how old was this girl? He said, oh, she was probably 20. I go, hello, you're almost 70. No, she did not think you were hitting on her. Well, after he'd been on this for 9 months, he stood up in a meeting, and I freaked out because, he called Jackie, and Jackie told him to take the test for Asperger's. And, we're old enough. My husband will be 74 next month. We had never been tested for learning disabilities. And he took the test at Harvard and at Cambridge, and he tested 85% of having Asperger's. We'd never heard of it. But at 9 months, he stands up in a meeting. He goes, may I say something? And I thought, no, because if you know anybody with autism or Asperger's, they can say inappropriate things at inappropriate times. You never know what they're going to say. He said, I had something happen this week that I have never had happen in my entire life. He said, my wife looked at me, and for the very first time, I could tell that she loved me. Now, we'd been married 43 years at that time, and I began to cry because I thought, how on earth have we stayed married all this time? But this product has changed his whole personality. He now is the last person to leave church. He now invites total strangers over. He talks to anybody and everybody, and he is so loving and kind. He used to never touch or hug anybody. Now he hugs everybody. And so I jokingly tell people, I, beat cancer, and my husband's personality showed up. So we, July 20th this year, we'll be married 50 years. We got married the day they walked on the moon.
Wow.
Anyway, I just want to thank everybody for letting me tell my story, and I do want to tell you that this is not meant to treat, cure, or mitigate, and it's my story. This is what happened to me, and I can't promise that it'll do that for you, but I will tell you it will lower your oxidative stress 100% of the time. So,
listen,
wow,
Mary, let me ask you a question. How old are you, darling?
Oh, I am 67, almost 68, and I am not on a single prescription. My husband will be 74, and he's not on a single prescription.
That was my next question. I appreciate you sharing that with me. You're reading my mind over here.
Yeah. And last summer, my husband, he used to have to hang on to a rail to walk up and down stairs because he had bad knees. Last summer, he painted 3 houses by himself up and down ladders.
Oh, wow.
And
wow.
He's just amazing. And he cleaned gutters this year, so he's amazing.
That's
well,
awesome.
I just want to say that you have the most amazing testimonial, the most blessed, heart-touching, tear-jerking testimonial I think I've ever heard on this product.
Me too.
And I want to thank you 1,000 times for coming over and sharing with these people this evening.
Well, thank you for letting me come, and I hope sometime maybe I can share again with you.